Hello, hello, hello. Here I am. I'm sitting here. It is Wednesday instead of when I typically film on a Tuesday. And I was starting to get a little panicky about it because I was like, oh, this is a day less. And I think I've told you before, I watch my grandbaby on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And so I film on Tuesday so that I have time. I get it uploaded, do all the things so I don't have to worry about it, just in case there are problems, which we all know that I have had multiple times. So I'm like, I gotta get it done, especially because, well, it's Wednesday night and I'm gonna have to go pick up my son in a bit. So anyway, welcome. So good to have you here. And I'm going out of town. We're doing another off-roading weekend. So anyway, here we are. Look at this. It's a different canvas. We are back to one of the Fallon Gems. I don't know if I think they may call them minis, but I mean, it's a decent size after doing the paint gem canvases we've done. So here we are, the chocolate covered strawberry up here. And I got some of it done before and then put it aside because I wasn't sure if I'd be able to see all the colors because, you know, we've had, sorry, I know it's probably annoying, had issues with being able to see the symbols. But I thought, okay, I feel like with this light board behind, I can see without any difficulty. And I'm just gonna do these F symbols. So that feels like something we can achieve. Anyway, welcome back. How is everybody? Hope you had a good week. I know that, well, there's a whole lot of sadness in the world right now with the passing of quite a few legends in our lives. We lost Dolly Parton, we lost Tim Curry, we lost Hayden Panettiere, we lost the drummer for ZZ Top, we lost, she was in Susan, oh my gosh, I just totally blanked on her name. So we've lost quite a few entertainment legends. And I know that I've seen the memes going around of Dear Grim Reaper, please stay away from the following. One of the questions that was going around in our office was who is going to be the new national treasure like Dolly was. You know, when we lost Betty White, I think Dolly took over that spot. And you know, she just did some great things. She was incredibly talented. So talented. I think people don't realize how great a songwriter she was. And I find that's really common. We know them as performers, but we may not know the number of songs they wrote, the music, the lyrics. Anyway, there were suggestions for Weird Al. This is in my office. Sorry, back to who's the new national treasure. There was Weird Al, Alan Tudyk, which I was surprised how many people said that they didn't know who that was. I was like, how can you not know who Alan Tudyk is? Let's see, another one was Tom Hanks. Of course, we've heard people, this was the meme, say Carol Burnett, Julie Andrews. There's just some incredible elders out there. Oh, I think somebody, back to our office thing, somebody had said, like Morgan Freeman, he was included. But it prompted a really interesting discussion with one of my coworkers. And at the time, he was like, who do you think the third is going to be? And I went over the list and I said, we've already had 3. Like, if anything, it's going to be the next round of 3 that we're facing. And, you can joke about things. But we started talking about who, since things happen in 3s, who would be the 3 you would want brought back? Which I thought, oh, that's really interesting, because I play the organ, which means I have been called on many times over the years to play at funerals, because, well, you just need somebody to play at a funeral, and typically I was available. And so it's at funerals that I learned so much about people that I might have known for years, but you just don't know everything about them. You come into their lives early in your life or later in your life or their life. And so, for example, we had somebody in our neighborhood who I had known for quite a while, but I didn't know how she met her husband, who was quite a few years older. And so I got to learn about their history and some of the children that they adopted. And it was really tender, and it made me think, gosh, I wish I had gotten to know those stories from them as their kids were telling those stories. I wish I had been able to ask her more about that. And it happens at every funeral. The sense of humor they had, or the inspiration that they received, the choices they made, how they met, how they married, just all those really cool things. And it makes you realize, sorry, I know that's loud. Sometimes you just really don't know much about people. And so, as I still don't know who are the 3 people I would like to come back. But of course, that led to, okay, if you could have dinner with 3 people, any 3, who would it be? And it was interesting that this individual was a little embarrassed to say who their 3 were, because some of them weren't great people. But he said he was so interested in the thought process and finding out why people chose to follow them. And I was like, oh, I hadn't thought of it that way. And so my 3 people, I've easily come up with 2. I'm unsure about the 3rd. I mean, I kind of have an answer. I don't know if it's cheating. So my 3 people, I'll just give you all 3. You will I think you'll know two of them. And unless you knew me very well, I don't think you knew the third. So, oh, that means, yeah, actually, as I think about it that way, I could do 4 easily. So, I would want to have dinner with Princess Diana because as I'm sitting here, I have a picture of her hanging up by my desk. I just thought she was an amazing woman. So that's person number 1 for me. Number 2 would be Monica Lewinsky. I studied cyber shaming and cyberbullying in my senior year of college. And I think she is really patient zero with that. It was brutal what was done to her in the name of, well, whatever the name is, politics, I guess. I think it's just awful how she was treated. And so in my studies, I did a lot of reading of articles about her and watched I think I watched her TED Talk and was so impressed. So she's another one I would like to have dinner with. And then the last person would be my mom, who passed almost 2 years ago. And I would really like to have, I'd really like to have another dinner with my mom. And as I was kind of walking through who are other people, the one that just dawned on me was a friend of mine. She was my next door neighbor growing up. Oh no. Oh, I hate when this happens. Ugh, I got it without any of these falling out. My next door neighbor growing up, her name was Terry. And we did so much together. I mean, we were together until I went to college. She went to college. And we just hung out all the time. We ended up like, little kids stealing from the gas station. I think I stole a pack of gum or a candy bar or something. And I remember her mom finding out and taking us back and making us give things back and say what we had done, which actually I did with one of my kids when they did something similar, followed a great example. And we lost touch when I got married and had a baby. She had basset hounds her whole life. Her mom loved basset hounds. And every weekend in the summer, they would go to the boat. I actually don't think I learned until I was older what going to the boat meant. I think they went to Chesapeake Bay. Maybe. I'm actually not really sure where it was. But they would do that almost every weekend, and I would watch Texie and Charlie. Those were the dogs. I loved basset hounds. It's why when we got our first dog, it was a basset hound. I love them. They are my kind of dog. Nice and lazy, although we had one that was not lazy. Loved to escape. That was a problem. And loved to move chairs around the kitchen and eat the food up on the counters. So, yeah, that was a problem. That's when I learned that bassets weren't always just lay there all day lazy. Anyway, after my oldest firstborn was born, she sent me a stuffed basset hound, and I still have it in my room. So we lost touch, and I don't know, maybe it was 10 years down the road. I was trying to find her, and I couldn't. And I found her parents and reached out and said, hey, I'm trying to get in touch with Terry. And her mom let me know that she had died from breast cancer when she was like 30 years old. And she had become a journalist for a small paper, and she chronicled her entire experience. And so her mom sent me a copy of all her articles, which was so very kind of her. And in one of the articles, she had mentioned how she had lost touch with a friend, and that she really could use that friend, and she blamed it on cancer, and that the cancer scared that friend away. Now, I don't know if that was me, because in all honesty, I don't remember much from those many years ago, and I don't remember if she let me know that she had cancer and then I didn't respond. I feel like if she was referring to me, and it's one of those things I'm gonna have to account for. I'm sure it was not intentional. It would have just been, I lost track of things, and was a young mom. And so she is definitely somebody I would like to have dinner with again. Now, here's something I remember from having dinner with their family. So her mom grew up in Switzerland. And so they went back to Switzerland pretty regularly and would always bring me Swiss chocolate, which to this day I have a mad love for. It's just, to me, I don't know if there's anything better. But when I would join them for dinner, it always started with a salad of some kind. And I remember it was the first time I had ever seen somebody eat steamed artichokes. I could not figure out, I was like, why would somebody eat that? And I remember her peeling it, dipping it either in butter or mayonnaise. I feel like it was mayo or something like that. And then putting it in her mouth and scraping it against her teeth and just kind of being like, huh, that's a fascinating thing. And I've never had it. I still have never tried it because I was so unsure how I felt about it. But that was fascinating to me. They also, her dad had this super cool, so it was like, it was a built-in bookcase that we had in our house as well, because, same next door neighbors, so we had similar houses. And his was a bar, And he had the coolest, I have no idea what was in it, because I did not grow up around alcohol, so I don't know what it was. But it was a container that was a globe, and you could move it back and forth. I thought that was so cool. I was like, that's the fanciest thing I've ever seen in my whole life. So, oh my gosh, look how much we're getting done. This is awesome. Okay, I'm gonna have to pull this off. Sorry. And I gotta put it a certain way so that I don't put it on the wrong way. If I do that, it will be terrible to try to get off. So yeah, those are some of the memories. Now, let me be crystal clear on this. My mom, also a stay-at-home mom, also cooked us dinner, but it just felt like, well, I've had these things. Like, I've had applesauce. My mom had a huge garden and would can her own fruits and vegetables every year. And that was something when Terry would eat at my house that she just was like, this is so cool. I've never had something like this. So it was awesome that we had these favorite things at each other's houses. At my house, it was the canned fruits and vegetables. At her house, again, I didn't eat it, but I thought all those sorts of things. She also had fish sticks, which I hadn't had. And that was the first time I had tartar sauce. That one I did eat. And I thought that was really interesting. I can't remember if I liked it, but I feel like when I got married, my husband kind of had to talk me into having salmon, like real salmon, because I had grown up having canned salmon. And I didn't realize until my dad went on this fishing trip and he brought home a salmon and my mom prepared it and I watched it. And I was like, why are you not taking the skin and bones? And she was like, well, you've been eating salmon for years. And this was like store-bought canned salmon. She's like, and it has the skin and bones. And I was like, yeah, I'm never doing that again. So my husband was like, no, you have to have actual salmon and it will change your life. So that was the first thing, the first actual not canned fish he got me to eat. And then that moved to tuna and then like all sorts of incredible things. So, you know, all the fun things that are sparked by our childhoods. And anyway, I would love to find out from Terry. She ended up getting married. And I would love to ask her about her husband and how they met. Can you imagine becoming a widow so young? A widower, so incredibly young. And to have to nurse your wife through this horrible disease. Now, my dad nursed my mom through the end of her life, but hers was dementia. It was not cancer. In fact, been very fortunate with that. And so I'm sure her husband, I think his name was Mark, must have been incredible. to take care of her. I'm very sad and think that this dinner that we could have together, I don't know, it's been a while. I'll need to actually see if I can find her mom and dad and see if they're still living. But I imagine if we could have dinner together again, that it would be a steamed artichoke cooked by her mom and homemade canned applesauce from my mom. And I would love to share those with Monica and Diana. Thank you for hanging out with me and having this awesome chat about, the legacy that people leave. And I love that in all the funerals I've been to and lives that I have been exposed to, whether it was personally or vicariously, that when people go, what we typically talk about is the good that they did, the good people that they were. And I hope that when I go, and I hope that for the experiences that you have had, we made it through, I think, all of the F's in here. It looks great. I'm pretty excited. I hope you have an awesome weekend, and I hope you have a great week ahead of you. Thanks for joining me. Until next time, bye.